It's my time, this my truth, so let me tell it how it is. See my story, his glory, I survived so you can live. Hell spoke, they told lies, now you gon' finally hear my side. Step to the mic, take back my seat, oh yeah, we lied. Hell, you spoke for too long, drag my name for too long. Thought you keep me mute, but no you won't now. It's my time, so shut the hell up, the hell up.
Hey, welcome back to Shut the Hell Up with yours truly, Miss Mo. I want to send a special shout out to you, amazing producer, Mr. Fossil. I want to thank you for your amazing music and for allowing me this opportunity to use your best on my podcast. I want to also welcome you listeners near and far and from wherever you are. I hope you are having the most amazing day, time, season, and year thus far. I want to say that I am enjoying life. I've had a whole lot of bumps and a whole lot of ups and downs and some heartaches and some this and that and this. But I want to say through it all, I am so blessed, so grateful, and so thankful to God that I am still here and I am ready to tell my story. I want to send a shout out to all of those that stood in my corner and just encouraged me when I almost wanted to throw in the towel and not even want to do a podcast. But most importantly, I want to thank myself for constantly getting up after each knockdown, after each betrayal, after each lie, after everything. God has given me the strength to endure hardness as a good soldier, and a soldier I am. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for joining me as I introduce my first episode, The Beginning. A lot of times we think that our beginning is happening right now. We think that the problems we have started right now, started yesterday, last week, last month, today. But I'm here to serve a notice that your problems started a long time ago. In fact, in your beginning. And until we heal our beginning, our problems will always be our tomorrows. So I just want to encourage you and want to inspire you and uplift you with being transparent with my story. And for this, I give God glory. So sit back, relax, and if you want to sip on some wine or however you feel like mellowing out, do you. I just want you to know I'm feeling this vibe. I'm enjoying this music and I'm excited. I'm excited to being transparent and not holding anything back, because for the first time I'm ready to tell my story. And for those of you that tried to go ahead of me and even lied and put a twist and a spin on it, I'm here to correct you, and I'm here to tell the devil to shut the hell up, including those he used. So I want to say this with love and with forgiveness. I love you all, and I forgive those that trespassed against me. And I hope you forgive me because I did something too. But let's get into it. God bless. Hey, I don't even know where to start, but let me first start by introducing myself. My name is Miss Monique Deshawn Terry, known as my spiritual name, Monet. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for this opportunity. I want to say that I'm here to tell my story, the rawness, the realness of everything I've endured. And so many people have endured the same. In fact, some people might have endured worse than what I've come through. But I want to say to each and every last one of us that endured, and we're still in our right mind, and we're still going and growing, I want to say I salute you, and I get it. I understand. Sometimes it seems easy for those that have not put on our shoes. But Lord, I thank you, because if only they knew, I barely made it, because there were times that I wanted to throw in the towel, times I wanted to quit, and there were times that I wanted to end it all by giving up the ghost. But God said, not so, not so. I have plenty more in store for you. And so I'm excited for that. I want to say that some of us may have started off with a beautiful beginning. And to those that started that way, I celebrate you. And for us who didn't start like that, I still celebrate you too, and I celebrate myself, because again, if it had not been for the Lord that was on my side, so many things could have gone wrong. And I'm just so thankful. I'm so thankful. I wanted to start off to say, I want to send a special love. My mom is no longer here. She's been gone, deceased since 2008. My dad is living in Long Beach, California. I just want to send a special shout out to my parents in her absence and in his presence. Dad, I love you. I forgive you, and that I hold no grudges, no ill will towards you. I get it. And I just wanted to let you all know that it's okay. It's okay to forgive your parents, forgive yourself, forgive those who have wronged you. Because at the end of the day, it is your duty to stay free. It is your duty to stay in your right mind, to stay peaceful. It is your duty to live your best life and have joy in doing so. Not all the time is it joyful, but when I think again of the goodness of Jesus, my God, I count it all joy. I count it all joy. I just want to say that I'm happy that I am being transparent. It's a lot that you don't know about me, that you think you know, but you don't know. And what a joy it is to be able to be before you and just sharing my journey. I take nothing from it. I don't regret it. You know, sometimes when you're going through, you say, I wish I wouldn't have done it. I wish I wouldn't have met you. I wish I should have followed my first mind. But I'm here to tell you, all of those wishes wouldn't have changed anything, because everything is already written even your beginning. However your story started, it was intended to start that way. And I just want to say, I'm so glad for serving God. And during the time after my mom passed, the Lord came to me and He said, I want you to go back in your past, and I want you to come out better than you've ever come out before. Because, sometimes we like to visit our past mentally, emotionally. We just love dwelling backwards. And sometimes when we go back, it doesn't help because we find ourselves even more angrier. And we find ourselves just hating the people more than we did before we went back and visit those places and things and what they said and what they done. I'm a witness. And I stand in correction, because if it had not been for God ushering me into that place and allowing me to sit there in a different mindset, and I sat there in the mindset of understanding my parents, and I found out that my parents were children before. And my parents experienced some things before they even thought about having children. And who am I to hold against them the things they never overcame or overcome or been healed from? And they did the best they could with what they had and what they were giving. And so I just want to say, I love them and I forgive them. And again, I understand. So as I go back, I go back with a different mindset as before. I don't hold any grudges and I'm not judging. I just want to tell my story. I just want to put my truth out there, because whether you know it or not, the more you share your story, the more freedom and the freer you become. And a lot of times the reason why people are bottled up with anger and frustration and hate and animosity and unforgiveness is because they're not willing to set themselves free. And the most important key of freedom is forgiveness. And so I forgive my past, I forgive my beginning, and I forgive everyone that played a part in the pain and suffering and misery and abuse that I've endured and overcome. So I just want you to enjoy yourself as you listen. And any parts of my life that relates to your life, I pray that I say something that allow you the reason to want to forgive, the reason to want to heal, the reason to want to be your best self and to live a better life, even for your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren. Hey, somebody has to break the generational curses so that the story doesn't stay on repeat, but it will start fresh and new. So I want to go back as to the first time that I witnessed violence. And that was in the home with both of my parents. In my beginning, I was in the home with my mother and my father. And it was very, very toxic. As I look back over it without judging, my parents were very toxic people. Looking at my mom came from a background where her mother left her and her siblings. She was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. Her mom left them with her mother, and that crushed my mother into pieces. There was not much that my mom shared with her children about her journey. There were bits and pieces, and then we collected bits and pieces from other people, but it would have been a jewel or a gem or a blessing had my mom told her story and wasn't ashamed of all that she endured and what was done to her and what she did to others. But my mom was broken. My mom was sad. My mom was very, very angry before even the time she had children. But I just want to speak on when she had me. And as far back as I can remember, my mom was always a very, very angry woman, very violent. She would tear up a house and tear you up too. So I just want to say that I understand her pain better than I did when I was suffering from it. And so my parents, they fought a lot. They argued a lot. They called each other out of their names, and they weren't mindful of their children that looked up to them and watched them and listened to them and basically mirrored everything that they were. One day I remember my dad had came home late from work, and my mom was very angry at him, and he came in the door with this, and me being little at that time, the fish was gigantic. He came in the door with this gigantic fish, and he was rushing through the living room and hurry up and got to the bathroom and threw the fish in the tub. And we were scared. I was scared, but excited at the same time, watching Daddy throw that fish over in the tub. And so my mom following up behind him, yelling and screaming and cursing him out. Where were you? Who is the bee you were with? And hopefully I would not say a curse word in this podcast. And if I do, Lord forgive me, but I don't live every day cursing. But if you push the wrong button, you make it a word or two. I'm just being real. Because a lot of us saints, we don't like being real. We don't like identifying or acknowledging that sometimes that flesh, that old man, that human man sometimes raises his head, and not all the time are we in control. So if I get a little loose, it's because I want to be as authentic and as raw so that you can know how I heard it and how I felt it. So if I go there, for those that judge, put down your stone, because he without sin cast the first stone. And for those that understand, thank you. God bless. But my mom was screaming and yelling at my dad and saying that he was with some woman, and he steady trying to tell her that he was out fishing. Well, he had the proof. He came in with this gigantic fish, and my mom wasn't buying it. You can't tell her anything. And when she's mad and when she feels she's right, she's not going to let you back her up or make her believe you. Let's just leave it like that. So my dad and my mom going back and forth, and we're standing there watching them. And my mom went to swing at my dad, and before we knew it, my dad had slapped my mother so hard that she flipped over into the tub and landed on top of the fish. My eyes bucked wide, and I began to shake because I know that smack didn't feel good because it was so loud and intense. And I may not have known these words at that time, but I'm able to demonstrate them during this time. But she jumped, and my mother was a fast woman. You knock her down, she up in seconds. She jumped out of that tub, and my dad took off running, and my mom ran straight to their bedroom and went to the nightstand. As she pulled open the drawer and grabbed the gun, she began running behind my dad. He ran through the living room and opened up the front door, slammed it, and my mother ran to the front door, pulling the doorknob, trying her best to get that door open. And my dad was refusing to let go of the handle from the other side. And they're yelling back and forth at each other from the front of the door to the outside of the door. And I'm screaming, "Please don't kill my daddy. Please don't kill my daddy." And my dad finally let go of the doorknob. My mother yanked open the door, and my dad jumped off the porch and started running towards the street. My mother lifted up her arm with a gun in her hand and began pow, pow, pow. And I'm screaming, "You killed my daddy, you killed my daddy." And my mother was angry. I mean, angry is not even the word. But she turned around, and I remember her looking at me, and she said, "Shut the F up and get in the room." I was so scared, standing there shaking, pee running down my legs, and I just couldn't move. And she steady yelling, and my siblings began to take off, and I'm still standing there in fear and wondering, did she kill my dad? My mother got in my face and cursed me out and said, "Get in the room." I ran to the room, and me and my siblings were in there just crying. Crying because I know I was crying because I felt she killed my dad. And at that time, I knew I was a daddy's girl. I loved my dad. And so I remember laying there in the bed just crying. And we didn't hear from my dad for a few days. And I'm thinking as the days go by that he's dead and that I will never see him again. It didn't seem to bother my mom at all because she was going on with her day as if she didn't care. But I didn't know that they had already talked on the phone, because a few days later, my dad was home. And seeing that was kind of confusing for me, because at one minute they were hating each other and fighting, and another minute my mom was shooting at him, and then another minute I thought he was dead, and now they're back in each other's arms. Isn't that the typical relationship that we grow up to have, and the people that we grow up to be? I remember my ex-fiance in the Bronx in New York when I was living there, and my children witnessed me fighting him, slapping him, and doing what I saw my mom do. And so it is so important that we right our wrongs, because what we learned then, we find ourselves doing now. And what a bad taste we leave in the mouth of our children, and what a bad memory we leave in their minds. And although at the time we're so angry that we're not even thinking that we're hurting them by what they're seeing us do. And so I'm a witness as what I saw from my parents as well as what my children saw from me. And so it was my duty to outgrow that behavior, that pattern, that mindset, because I didn't want to see my daughter disrespecting men, and I didn't want to see my son disrespecting women. And it took me a minute to get there because I didn't have the skills or the tools, and I thought by this time, because I joined the church at 24, I thought maybe I will find my healing there. Well, in fact, I found Satan at his highest. So I didn't know how to break from that behavior. And so learning from my beginning put me in a place of reliving what my parents demonstrated in front of me. And again, you gotta remember, your parents were not always your parents. They were people, they were teenagers, they were little children, they were babies before. And so sometimes people's beginning create the trend and the path that they will take in life. And if somebody or if God doesn't step in, it will go from generation to generation to generation. And a lot of us, we cover up well. We hide it very well. Just as my parents did when they got back together. It was as if that fight never happened. That gun never was shot at my dad. I mean, it was like my mom was never slapped over into the tub on top of the fish. And I don't even know what happened to that fish. I can't even remember that. That's how traumatized I was. I can't even remember if mom cleaned the fish, cooked it. All I know is that I was shaking and I was scared. I was in tears and I cried myself to sleep. But it was good to see Daddy home. I couldn't make sense of that back then because I was a child. Another moment remembering my beginning is when I was taught fear, not only by their behavior, but I remember one morning we getting up for breakfast and my mother was making us a bowl of cereal. And my mom said, "Monique, go to the refrigerator and get the milk." My dad always came home with something, but he came home this particular day where he had already been to the house with it. I didn't see it come in, but I saw it then. I opened the refrigerator, and there it was looking at me, a dead raccoon with his eyes open and his teeth and his mouth wide open. And the milk was on the top shelf, so I would have to climb up on something, reach above him and grab the milk. And I'm screaming, "Ma!" It was I didn't know what to call it, but I found out later it was a raccoon. And I couldn't get the milk because I just knew he was gonna jump out. I didn't even know he was dead. I found that out later too, but his eyes were open, his mouth was open, and his teeth was sharp. And my mother yelling and yelling, "Get the milk, get the milk." I mean, she yelling and cursing me out. And I couldn't get the milk, and I'm standing there shaking with tears running down my face. And I can hear my dad saying, "She's scared. Go get the milk." And my mother said she didn't care about me being scared, but I better bring that milk to the table. And I don't know how long I was standing there crying, but I never got the milk. My dad came and got the milk for me. And I remember going to the table, sitting there, my mother staring across the table at me with anger, all in her face and her eyes. And I couldn't even hold my head up. I felt so bad. I felt that I disappointed her. I felt that I let her down. I felt so horrible. And at that age, I didn't even know the words to describe how I felt. But I knew what I felt was very uncomfortable and very sad. I couldn't even eat. I was terrified. And my mom sitting there just staring me down didn't make things better. In fact, I felt worse. And as I moved on in life, I found out that fear stayed a part of me because that's what I was taught in my beginning. And normally when someone's afraid, they're comforted and they are helped. But my mom didn't do that for me. And my dad didn't come instantly. It took him a minute to come and get that milk. But for me to stand there and fear taught me how to fear life. Taught me how to fear life. I was afraid of a lot of things, fearful. Because of that moment, I was afraid of dogs. I was afraid of cats. I was afraid if someone raised their voice. I mean, fear had embodied me to the point that anything dropped, I jumped. And I shook on the inside. I didn't know how to deal with that. I didn't know how to unpack that. And often in life, we are packed with everything we learned from our beginning. And if we don't unpack those things, our children will pack the same bag. They will pack the same fears. They will pack the same toxicity and dysfunctional relationships. And I am here to say on this day that I encourage you that in any way, any shape or any form or any fashion that your children were traumatized by you, I encourage you to apologize. I encourage you to apologize because they didn't know how to deal with that. Because I know I didn't know how to deal with mine. And one thing I know to be true is that I've always been that mother that apologized to my children because I understood what it was like to need that from my parents. And to this day, I've never received that. So I know sometimes in order for people to feel good, they have to lie on you and they have to make you out to be this bad parent, this bad person. But I'm so glad God knows the truth. I fought hard to be a better mom to my children, and I made a lot of mistakes too. But one thing about me, that I didn't just make mistakes and leave them as a mistake. I right my wrongs. I corrected those things. I fought to get to a place where my mistakes were no longer my power, but that my change was my empowerment, not only to my children, but to those that I'm able to teach, lead, and guide to their light and their better self. So I wanted to share those 2 moments of my beginning, how your beginning can carve and create and set a pattern for the rest of your life. And if something like God, prayer, or a made-up mind don't break it, it will live on and on and on and on. And so I want to say to you, as I have said to myself, you deserve to go back in your past as God has ushered me and right your wrongs and also forgive the wrong that was done unto you. That's the only way past wounds will heal, and the only way that you can live in your present moment healthy, healed, and whole. So I wanted to share those 2 memories with you, and I have a whole lot to come, a whole lot, because I am going to share my story, and I pray to God that somebody gets healed and that somebody learns not only from what I've gone through, but what you've gone through, and that you give grace to those that didn't learn anything at all, because when you learn, you do better, and when you learn, you do right. And so I just want to say, I love you all. I thank you for sitting and listening with me, to me. And I look forward to coming back with another episode, because I'm going to stick with the beginning for a minute, because I have more stories. And I just want you to know that it's never too late. It's never too late. We may never have the opportunity. In fact, we will never have the opportunity to fix our beginning. But we can fix the beginning that still lives, that still has power and control over us in this day and time, and that we can stop it from living in us, and we can start anew and afresh. God bless you all. Thank you. And I love you. And I want to say, be kind, be patient, and give plenty of grace, because you'll never know the time that when you need it, you will hope someone extend it to you. Have yourself an amazing day. And until the next time, be good to yourself as well as others. God bless.